ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the AHI Virtual Speakers Forum. As always, we are coming to you live from our American Hellenic Institute headquarters in Washington, D.C., called Hellenic House. My name is Nick Larigakis. I am president of the American Hellenic Institute, and it is indeed an honor to welcome you once again to one of our presentations. Today, we're going to talk about a subject matter that for many of us, over 6 million of the diaspora Greeks around the world, are very interested in hearing about how can we go to Greece this year. So we've put together a panel presentation on just this subject matter, which we call Greece is Ready to Welcome You. What do you need to know? And as always, we have, as I said, a distinguished group of panelists led by none other than the Minister of Tourism, Mr. Theoharis, Mr. Tim Anandiadis, the general manager and managing director of the Grand Bretagne and the King George hotels in Athens, and from here in the suburbs of Washington, D.C., Mr. Konstantinos Georgiadis, who is the vice president and general manager of Amphitryon holidays, a major tour operator specializing in Greece and the Eastern Mediterranean for over 50 years here in the nation's region. However, just to get things started, as I always like to do, it seems like for many of us in the diaspora, we consider it almost a birthright to visit Greece every year during the wonderful summer month period, to go relax within our friends, our family, to enjoy the beautiful crystal blue waters of the Aegean, to enjoy the beautiful sunlight and the beautiful food which Greece always offers us, of course, throughout the year, but especially during the summertime, when many of us look to go back and have that yearning to go and re-energize ourselves so we can come back and to be able to get into our jobs that we deal for the other 11 and a half months during the course of the year. This year, of course, presents some interesting challenges, as we all know, with the COVID-19 issues and the various travel restrictions and health restrictions. And for many of us, it's going to have to be an individual decision on what we want to do. But we want to be well informed. And our panelists here today will certainly provide us with what we hope to have is up-to-date information, although the information continues to be fluid and changes on a daily basis. But for a little bit of perspective, while many of us in the diaspora and in the United States, we are 1.3 to 1.5 million Greek Americans, of which the statistics of 2018 have stated that 1.1 million Americans visited Greece. Mr. Minister, at some point, maybe you can clarify for me how somebody like myself counts that comes to Greece 5 or 6 times a year with an American passport. Do I count as 5 times within that 1.1 million? I would always be interested to know what statistics are for the indigenous, pure, non-Greek American who visits Greece. But I digress. For Greece, though, it's much more than just gathering, its children from across the globe and visiting Greece. It becomes a little bit more of life and death in certain ways as it relates to its economy and the people who work in the industry. If we look at 2019 numbers as issued by the World Travel and Tourism Council, tourism and travel accounts for 21% of Greece's economy, or 43.6 billion in terms of dollars. It also accounts for 22% of the total employment, which translates to 846,000 jobs. There are other statistics that have it even higher, based on 30% possibly of overall GDP. So you can see tourism is an exceptionally important component to the Greek economy and to the Greek people. The shipping industry makes up another enormous portion of the Greek economy. In 2019, there were approximately 35 million arrivals to Greece. A recent study conducted by Deloitte and Ernst & Young has the numbers drop into as low as 14.5 million for 2020, and they paint some difficult projections for the recovery of the Greek economy that could last upwards from another 2 to 5 years to reach the levels of 2019. We hope that's not the case. As I mentioned, 1.1 million visitors visited Greece as of 2018 statistics that I have at my disposal. So now to bring a little more into focus what all this means, what are the latest in terms of the health restrictions as imposed by the European Union. We hear some alarming information, Mr. Minister, just over the course of the last 24 hours. When you look at the United States Embassy's website, there are reports issuing that the European Union is now thinking about potentially closing down travel to Greece from anyone from the United States. That's a very sobering statistic, but we deal in facts. And now to turn to facts and to bring into focus what we need to know, if those of us who are going to go or are going to be able to go, we need to know. And leading off at our discussion today is the Minister of Tourism of Greece, Mr. Theoharis. Mr. Theoharis is a member of the Greek Parliament, has been so since 2015. He previously served in different government positions, including Secretary General for Information Systems at the Hellenic Ministry of Finance, and he also served as Secretary General for Public Revenues, which is, I guess, to say the IRS of Greece. And Mr. Theoharis also has held senior management positions in the private sector. So, Mr. Minister, without further ado, I pass on the Zoom microphone to you for your opening statements.
Well, thank you very much. Thanks, Nick, for the invitation, the opportunity to speak to friends from the Greek diaspora and from all over the world. Greece is ready to welcome. We're glad to say this is not something which is that we took lightly. This is not something that we could have even considered thinking and stating a month ago or a month and a half ago, given that everybody had to come to grips with a very difficult reality. However, Greece has managed to show global leadership in terms of the way that we dealt with the first part, at least, of this crisis, which is the part of the crisis where we had to put people's lives, the health situation as our first priority. Now, we did that very, very swiftly. We did that with great determination by the Prime Minister, Kyriakos Mitsotakis, took tough decisions and took them very early. We banned carnival celebrations 2 days after we had our first coronavirus case. We only had 2 cases when the celebrations were banned. This was not an easy decision, I can tell you. It was not an obvious decision, and it was not an unopposed decision within the populace and within, of course, the opposition, and sometimes within the same party or even the government. So this was a very difficult decision. But however, we very quickly aligned and worked together very effectively as a government, and the people that served in the front line of this disease, the coronavirus heroes, if you like, the health people, the police people, the civil protection people that had to ensure that everything went according to plan. And finally, the third part of the equation, of the recipe, if you will, was the determination of the Greek people to take this seriously, to not succumb to conspiracy theories, to actually accept the expert advice like the Prime Minister and the government did, and accepting this advice to stick to the rules. Now, by sticking to those rules, we have shown how it can be done, and I think we're all of us, the Greek diaspora and the Greeks within Greece and without Greece alike, can stand with our head tall, knowing full well that the numbers that we're dealing with, both in terms of death and the number of cases, are world-class numbers. Now, this has allowed us to move to the next phase, which is today's phase, the reopening of initially the internal restrictions were more or less fully operational within Greece, and now to restart tourism in 2 phases. The first was on the 15th of June, where we had the two airports open, the land borders from Bulgaria open. We have specific rules in terms of the number of tests and the kind of quarantine that we sometimes require. But from the 1st of July, we will have a more widespread opening of land borders, sea borders, and the airplane ports of entry. Now, this is going to be, as you can imagine, is a very hectic period that just come from an operational meeting with a number of ministers trying to put everything in order on how to deal with things. And I can tell you that Greece will be fully ready on the 1st of July to accept visitors from the rest of the world. Now, the thing that's important, especially for the people from the US, Greece was the first country to announce the kind of plan that we were putting in place. This spurred the EU into action. EU could not agree on a common set of rules, and only after we announced our rules and the kind of, if you like, fracas that it created, this was the goading that was needed to happen for Europe, for the EU to come with a common policy. Now, the common policy said that we are blocking until the 1st of July third countries, and we're opening as much as possible internally the connectivity. Now, this has led to almost full compliance. There are still some pockets of changes from Norway, this and that, but we're actually coming to an opening of the internal borders. And we are discussing, it's already the 25th almost of June, and we still haven't come up with a common set of rules on which countries to allow. We have said that when we allow, we will allow without any quarantine anymore, but we will only do testing on a targeted basis. But the list of countries that will be allowed, the discussion is open on an EU level. I've read the reports about the US. It is quite possible that the US will not be in the initial set of countries that will be allowed on the 1st of July. But the jury is still out. I'm not even sure that Europe will come to a common set of rules. If that does not happen pretty soon, I'm afraid that Greece will have to again take a stance and make a decision and try to open up. In which case, at least my personal position will be that if not the whole of some of the states which have better epidemiological data should be allowed, and also we should try to make exceptions for the Greek diaspora. Now, as I said, this is an ongoing discussion. The jury is still out, so I cannot give you definite answers yet. Now, we have developed a number of initiatives to accept people, visitors, in a safe manner. The choice of countries is the first pillar of our Destination Greece Health First. The second pillar is the testing that will happen when people come in. The third pillar is the fact that we have instituted strict hygienic protocols so that even if someone goes undetected, they have no big chance of spreading the disease widely. And finally, we have strengthened our health system in every small destination, in every little island, ensuring that we can deal with every case, each and every case, and at the same time, we will be able to foot the bill for COVID cases. So people coming from abroad will not have to have insurance unless they obviously want to. As far as COVID is concerned, we will take care with a national health system, both the quarantining, the testing, the possible hospitalization, and any needs that they might have. So this way, people can have peace of mind that they can be both safe and relaxed when they come to Greece. I'm closing with this. Our ambition is not to be the #1 country in tourism this year. Our ambition is to be the safest country in tourism this year. We want anyone that will honor us with their presence and wants to come to Greece to be able to come to Greece and be each and every one of them to go back safely to their home. This is our only ambition, at least for this year. We can start counting numbers and eggs and chicken from next year, but this year, safety is number one.
Thank you, Mr. Minister, and you opened up there a possibility for numerous questions, which we'll look forward to in a few minutes. And I remind the audience who are tuning in to use the function at the bottom of your screen and to send us your question. And as always, try to make it as short as possible and succinct, and you have a better possibility of me reading your question. And now to go to our next speaker is Tim Anandiadis, General Manager and Managing Director of the Hotel Grande Bretagne in King George, Athens, arguably two of the finest hotels, if not the finest hotels in all of Greece. And I see Tim sitting in my favorite seat where I drink my coffee at the Winter Garden restaurant. Tim is over 40 years international experience in the hospitality industry. He started his career in the United States with Hyatt Regency, where he served as general manager in Pittsburgh, Coral Gables, and Miami hotels for Hyatt Regency. From there, he went into Hyatt International as the general manager of the Hyatt Regency Thessaloniki, and also the Grand Hyatt in Mumbai in India. In 2003, he joined Starwood Hotels and Resorts, returning to Greece as the general manager and managing director of the Hotel Grande Bretagne. And he also served from 2006 to 17 as area manager for Greece, Turkey, Cyprus, and the Balkans. He also is currently vice chairman of a great academic institution, the American Community School in the Agia Paraskivi in Athens. He is vice president of the Athens Hotel Association. He's a board member of the Greek Health Tourism Organization, chairman of the Marriott Worldwide Business Council in Greece and Cyprus. And for full disclosure, he is also a newly appointed board member of the American Hellenic Institute as of this January. It's a pleasure to have you with us, Tim. So the Zoom floor is yours.
Thank you, Nick. Thank you very much. Appreciated the opportunity. I'm sitting in a place that, as you know, typically is full of life. After 150 years, this hotel was forced to close. We've been closed now for 3 months. As you can see, I'm the only guest here. It's still beautiful as ever for the ones that know the property.
You get good service, though.
I had to serve my own drink. That's not a problem. Anyway, we are looking forward to opening. We are planning on reopening mid-July. The reason for that is operational. In order for us to get some renovations done during the hotel's closure, we had to do certain things that, unless the hotel was closed, we couldn't do it, and those will be done sometime the next couple of weeks. So we're opening sometime between 10 and 15 of July. Our operation will be a full operation. All our restaurants will open, the bars, the outdoor pool, the spa, the gym, all of them following the guidelines, both of the Greek ministry and also the Marriott International guidelines and the American CDC. So our aim is obviously to keep our guests and our employees safe. We've installed separations between the employees and the guests in certain areas like the front desk. One key factor for the ones of you that will be lucky enough to visit us this year is that we have our own transportation companies, and it's important because one of the key factors is getting from the airport to the hotel or from the hotel to the airport. And we made sure that all of our transportation companies are fully compliant with the same protocols as we have. Just to give you a couple of ideas of what we do, and not only this hotel, all of my colleagues in Athens and the islands that I speak to, we follow pretty much the same direction. We will not rent a room for at least 12 hours between guests. We'll make sure the rooms are aired. In our case, we've just installed HEPA filters throughout the hotel. In our rooms, we have UV lamps that in the filters of the air handling units. And also you look electrostatic cleaning in all of the rooms and all the public areas, throughout the night, to make sure that everything stays fresh. In general, our aim, as the minister said, is to make sure that the people that they get here, A, they feel safe, and second, they feel comfortable in the environment, and they're able to address the issue if the alike opportunity that they may have to be quarantined, or they may have to be tested. Based on the ministry's direction, we have a certification that all of the hotels have to go through. It's called Health First. That is administered by the Hotel Association. All of the hotels have to be certified before they reopen. That includes having a doctor, a specialist doctor on staff, or a clinic. We have both that they're available to all the guests. We're testing our employees, not necessarily, we can't do all of them, but we test 10 to 15 employees every 3 or 4 days. And that's something that we will do throughout the summer. We make sure that the guests that they do have a problem and they need assistance, that they will be taken care of while they're here, both within the hotel or if they need to move somewhere else. Me personally, I can tell you that having traveled both by flight, by ferry, and by car the last 2 weeks, the travel is comfortable. The staff, both at the ferries and the airports, they follow the rules. They're very diligent about people wearing masks, people keeping distances. So I think, assuming that the flights return on time and everything works out for everybody, that the people that are lucky enough to come and visit us, they will have a great time. So thank you very much. I won't take any more of your time, and I'll take your questions.
Thank you very much, Tim. Thank you. And now I'll turn into our last presenter before we open it up to Q&A. Is another longtime friend of the Institute and somebody we work very closely with our student foreign policy trip every year. Is Konstantinos Georgiadis, who's the Vice President and General Manager of Amphitryon Travel USA. Mr. Georgiadis started in various capacities in the hospitality industry going back to 1972, and ultimately ended up in Greece, where he was working in '83 for Amphitryon Holidays in Athens. From there, the company sent him to their Washington, D.C. office, whereupon arriving a few years later in 1986, he became Vice President and Sales Manager of the company. The company is in the U.S. associated with Amphitryon group of companies, which with other offices in Greece, which includes Athens and also in Crete. And in Japan, they have offices in Tokyo and Osaka. And they are, as I said, for over 50 years, a leading provider of tour services and other such endeavors to Greece and Eastern Mediterranean, but really throughout the world. Mr. Georgiadis, it's a pleasure to have you with us. The Zoom floor is yours.
Nico, thank you. And thank you for inviting me and the Amphitryon Holidays Company. And also, I'm very happy and honored to join the other panelists, Minister Theoharis and Team Anandiadis. I will start by saying that in my 42 plus years in the business, I thought I have seen it all. I've seen 9/11, I have seen terrorist attacks, I have seen economic crisis, natural disasters, the most recent an eruption of a volcano in Iceland that disrupted all the flights to Europe. But I didn't know there was another one, and a big one. And this one is the pandemic crisis, which is affecting the whole globe. Having said that, it is in my nature to be an optimist. So I always try to draw from something positive. And the positive in this case is that Greece has done an excellent job and is ready for tourism with all the safety precautions that the minister said. And it's also in a better position than many other countries. Having said that, we are facing some serious challenges that the previous speakers have addressed. I would like to concentrate on two things. The first, we already discussed the entry of US citizens to Greece. And I know that this is something under evaluation. I know that the European Union has to make some joint decisions, but this is currently a challenge. Hopefully, come July, there will be some positive messages coming over. The other challenge which I want to address, which has nothing to do with Greece, is that the airline industry has been greatly impacted, like many other industries, by the pandemic. And as a result, primarily the transatlantic flights from and to the US have been constantly undergoing modifications, cancellations, changes. Speaking of Greece, the non-stop services, for the most part, United from New Jersey, American from Philadelphia and from Chicago, have been suspended. Emirates will start operating a little later in July. And the issue here is that airlines are also in a state of uncertainty, not knowing if they're going to fill out their planes. So we are constantly, I mean, this has been for the last 2 months, and I think it's going to continue for a while. We are vigilant and we are checking constantly and daily who operates, who doesn't operate, what changes they are. Now, on a positive note, I have noticed lately that there has been a better stability in the schedules. Still, we need to check every day, but there are services that seem to continue uninterrupted. Also, for all the audience, because we are all consumers and at this time we don't have enough money to spend, airlines overall are offering airfares that are definitely better than last year or the year before. So this is a nice and positive thing. Also, airlines are taking every precaution to keep the passengers safe. And as Tim said, who had traveled by air recently, I feel also very safe to travel myself. They are blocking seats on the flights so you don't sit next to each other unless you are a family. They require that you wear a mask, and they constantly disinfect the planes. In fact, a number of airlines that we work with have sent us videos which I can make available to our clients, showing all the procedures from check-in at the airport until they board the flight. In closing my opening remarks, given the existing circumstances today, we will not see tourism as we know it for the summer months. However, and I'm very hopeful, tourism from the United States will start coming in the fall. And believe me, there is interest and there is a great recognition in the United States that Greece has done its part extremely well. My last statement, at the present time, our company receives calls almost daily from the Homogenia, from the diaspora, expressing their strong interest to visit Greece this summer. In fact, some of them has asked if we can charter a plane because they don't know the airlines and all that. as in my, as in many other instances in the past, the Greek American community and the Greeks of the diaspora do not only want to go to Greece for holidays, but they do want to support Greece. So this is something that is very, very important. Under the present, we check things every day, and under the present circumstances, if they're just US passport holders, this is my understanding, they cannot travel. However, if they have been born in Greece and they have been registered in their place of birth, the Embassy of Greece can provide information and assist with documentation that they could travel. I will leave this to the able hands of the embassy, which, by the way, has done an amazing job. And especially at the time of the lockdown, I want to give a big thank you and appreciation for all the staff and everything they do every day to keep us updated and to have the latest information. On that note, I give it back to you, Nick. And
well, thank you very much, Konstantinos, and to all of you for those very valuable information that you provided. And as I said in the beginning of the program, of course, what's true today is not necessarily true tomorrow or a week from now, because of the nature of the, the fluid nature of this unfortunate virus that all of us are under. Mr. Minister, if I may begin with you, you seem to allude a little bit in that if in fact the European Union were to come down with some directive as specific as relates to Americans traveling to the EU, and Greece of course is part of the EU, you may, again, and I don't know necessarily all the nuances of how the EU works.
I cannot hear you for some reason.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Hello?
We can hear you. Maybe
He's not able to hear me.
no.
Mr. Minister, can you hear me? Is your mic on? All right. Can you hear me now, Mr. Minister? Can you hear me? Oh boy. Let me go to Mr.
Here he is.
Can you hear me, Mr. Minister?
Okay.
You may have to reboot it. Anyway, well, that's the.
I'm sure I can hear you. I don't know if you can hear me, but
I can hear you. You can't hear me? My mic is on. Everyone can hear me. I can hear you. Boy.
So what's the question?
Well, the question was one really that only he could answer, and that is, can Greece, override an EU decision?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe he can hear me. I don't know. Can you hear me? Mr. Theoharis, can you hear me? No. Nope.
Emily, if you can hear me, can you reach out to?
From what I know, Nick, from what I read today, is that what they're thinking about is a directive, but not necessarily a directive that is a blanket statement. It's they will leave pretty much his country possibly to do their own decisions on that.
So then there is.
That's what I heard lately, but maybe the minister can hear us now.
Can you hear, Mr. Minister? Can you hear us? Oh, this is not good.
I cannot hear you.
Anyway.
You still can't hear me. Mr. Georgiadis, I guess he's going to try to log back on. The minister will. How challenging has this been overall for you trying to provide the service to your clients, and compared to other years? You mentioned that there's been a lot of people who have been reaching out to you to want to go to, want to travel to Greece. Would you say it's the same as other years in terms of Greek Americans, at least? I don't think any one of us are under any illusions that, indigenous, if you will, Americans are looking to travel, too much outside the shores of the United States this year. But mostly we're talking to Greek Americans in this particular broadcast here today. Would you say you've gotten from Greek Americans similar requests, or even that has been has been down a lot?
No, to my pleasant surprise, it has been strong. And as I mentioned, and this is serious, like 2 different families have asked me to research about the possibility of chartering a flight because there is a strong interest and they want to go in August. I talk daily to a lot of people, and there is an interest. And if right now there were no restrictions, I would say that the first people that would go to Greece and spend their vacation in the summer will be the Greek Americans. I'm saying this, like I'm daily talking with people, and Americans are interested. They feel that Greece is safe, but there are no immediate plans. They are all talking from the fall and mostly for 2021. But the Greek American market, I get a lot of calls and a lot of encouraging calls. Even if it doesn't happen now, it is encouraging.
Mr. Minister, can you hear me now? Oh.
Yes.
You're able to hear me, right? Hello? Tim, you're planning, more specifically, you're planning when to open up the hotel?
Look, we are opening sometime between the 10th and the 15th of July. Just to reiterate what Costa said, unfortunately, I have data from all of our hotels in Greece, which is close to 28 hotels affiliated with us. The reservations are minimal right now. There is interest. There is, we have relaxed the way to make a reservation anymore. We allow last minute changes. We allow cancellations within 24 hours. So we've done a lot of things to help ease the way to make a reservation without worrying that you're going to lose your money or you're not going to be able to cancel it. However, as Costa said, most of the interest is for fall and 21. To my surprise, the last couple of days, I've seen a lot of reservations, somewhere close to 100, 200 reservations come in for the next 6 weeks or so, mostly from the Americas, Canada, and a little bit of Northern Europe. So, you mentioned something about the 1 million+ Americans coming through Greece. 80% of our business in the summer in the major hotels in Greece are American business. Mykonos the same way, Santorini the same way. A lot of the resorts get a lot of American business. And of course, the cruise ships are a big business for us. And that's not going to happen until 21. So whoever, again, makes it here, they will have a pretty comfortable stay in terms of not having a lot of people around them, that's for sure. I don't anticipate having thousands of people, coming through here. But at the same time, I can tell you that going outside here, the restaurants are, fairly busy. The cafes are working. There is movement. So you don't feel that there is a pandemic going on in the rest of the world. Let's put it this way.
Mr. Minister, can you hopefully hear me now?
Yes, of course I can. Thank you.
Excellent. Let me get back to my original question. You mentioned specifically, regarding this new edict coming down, regarding from the European Union as it relates to specifically the United States and the possibility for no one from the United States to be able to travel, to the EU countries this year. But you also sort of alluded that you might be able to override such a decision specifically as it relates to Greece. Is that something that is within the parameters of how the EU functions? Are you able to do that?
No. If the EU comes up with a decision, the leeway that countries will have will be prescribed in that decision. For example, we could be more conservative than the list that the EU provides. In most probability, we will not be able to expand to that list. We will not be able to add countries on our own. But if the EU does not come up with a common position, if consensus is not possible, then obviously we would have done our part in trying to come up with a logical position. And of course, at that time, we will have to take a stance. We have to decide for ourselves, our economy, tourism, the livelihood of so many people depends on us making decisions. So we cannot wait indefinitely for Europe to act.
As of right now, as of today, this day, July 1 is still open for business for people from America to be able to come as of right now?
Yes. The restrictions end on the 30th of June, so 1st of July is open. We would have to wait and see what the situation is. As I said, in the next couple of days, I'm hoping that we will have clarity, either through a common European decision or through our own decision, as I already mentioned. But as things stand, yes, July is open to third countries and the US included.
Let me ask another question here, if I may, of the minister, or at least to provide you with information, which I'm sure your people have looked at. But I always like to deal in statistics and in facts. And here's the facts, surprisingly enough. When you look at total deaths in the United States, rather, let's reframe that. Yes, total deaths in the United States are 121,000, and Greece has 190. What that means is, by percentage of those infected and dying, is that both the United States and Greece are exactly at the same percentage. They are at 0.05% for the United States and 0.05 for Greece. By comparison, Spain, the UK, and Italy are 0.11%, 0.14%, and 0.14%. So when you look at it in terms of statistics, in terms of facts, what we should be dealing with, those are the numbers. So it would seem to me there would be no reason, at least for the European Union, to want to be able to put on any restrictions from the United States based on actual factual numbers. How would you respond to that?
Well, the kind of formulas that the ECDC, the European Center for Disease Control, is coming up with, and the different countries' proposals take into account a number of information. And as you can imagine, it's a very complex endeavor to try to homogenize data from 200 different countries. And that includes the Holy See of Vatican, the US, Greece, Togo, Vanuatu, and you name it. So I wouldn't want to be in the scientists' shoes trying to ensure that there's a meaningful metric that allows to make those decisions. Let me try to explain in very broad terms and with the risk of oversimplifying this. The general idea is that we try to keep the skies open for countries where we have a similar or a less number of cases per 100,000 of population. This is not the historical number of cases, but the last new cases that have been announced in the past couple of weeks. Because obviously it doesn't matter whether you peaked and now you're off the peak of a disease. What really matters is how much the disease is spreading right now. So So that's the first basis of the decision, trying to come up with a metric that has to do with the number of per 100,000 people of population in the country. Now, you have to then start adding whether the number of cases is increasing or decreasing or staying stable. You have to take into account whether there is dependability on the numbers. For example, whether the numbers, there is confidence in those numbers, or those numbers come from countries that, there is no confidence. I mean, I think there are 0 cases in North Korea, for example. Finally,
Hello?
sort of notion of how much testing is being done, because the number of tests comes up with the number of cases that are found. So basically, it's a very complex equation. It's an equation that there is a lot of discussion back and forth, and every country is to. It's an interesting endeavor. It never keeps you bored. So this is, as I said, a very, very difficult discussion, and I'm not 100% set, and certainly I cannot even say that I'm hopeful that we can reach a consensus.
Modest. Tim, you talked about your protocols in place regarding making rooms safe, healthy, clean. And obviously a lot of this is mandated, if I understood you correctly, by protocols that have been set forth by the government through the health ministry and other areas. But you're the Grand Bretagne Hotel. You have resources. You have a certain caliber that you present in terms of your, to the marketplace. Can every tourist who visits Greece can feel as confident, in your opinion, regarding, what they will find at the Grand Bretagne Hotel as opposed to some other 3-star or lower hotel, in terms of, will they cut the corners? Can a tourist really feel confident across the board that these protocols are going to be in place? I know you can't answer for everybody, but, it's a question of, of health.
Nick, look, the direction from the government and from the Hotel Association is none of the hotels, no matter what category they are, will open without that certification from them. That certification includes some, training, includes some pretty strong standards. I can tell you from my conversations with the Athens Hotel Association, that includes anywhere between luxury hotels and 1-star hotels, smaller hotels, they are all looking to do exactly what the government and the Greek CDC is asking them to do. I can only talk about our caliber hotels from the people that I speak to on a daily basis, and I feel that they will do their best to maintain that type of health protocol. Quite frankly, when we look at the protocols that we have in terms of cleanliness, when we take away the new things like electrostatic cleaning or the separations, the dividers that we put in the front desk, or the PPE equipment, the rest of the cleaning procedures, the rest of the health and safety issues that we deal with in the kitchens, in the restaurants, in the bars, have been in place for years now through the European and the Greek health ministry. So it is not, we are intensifying those efforts, and it's not new to everybody. So whoever doesn't do it now, they weren't doing it before.
Right. Okay. Mr. Georgiadis, sort of a similar question, because you talked about in terms of videos of the airlines and so forth. Now, I've been reading a lot of articles because someone like myself who gets into about 60 planes a year at least, wants to be really up to speed on terms of if I do plan to go on another plane sometime soon and have not been in a plane for the last 4 months. But be it as it may, they say, for example, planes in terms of the air quality, some of the safest environments anywhere because of these super duper filters that can filter as much as 99.9% of all particles within this tube can. But they did say, experts, that surfaces are a problem on planes. And the chances are, if you're going to get sick, you're most likely to get it from a surface of a plane as opposed to air particles. So how diligent have the airlines been with tour operators like yourself in terms of making passengers feel safe in terms of being on a plane for an extended period of time? From the United States to get to Greece, especially this year, for many of us who will go, if we end up going, we're going to have to change planes. And we're talking about, some European destination hub that we will check 2 different planes and have a combined flying time of as much as potentially 11 hours. I was in church the other day for 45 minutes, and I was suffocating wearing a mask for 45 minutes. I can't even imagine being wearing a mask for 11 hours. Can you just speak a little bit more in terms of what the airlines are telling you as a tour operator, specifically as it relates to the safety of their planes?
Thank you, Nick. Airlines, a number of airlines that we work with have arranged webinars to inform us and to keep us, other than the videos that they have prepared, and keeping the planes disinfected, the surfaces, as you mentioned, is a very important part of it. And I have attended so many of them. I'm becoming an expert to disinfect surfaces. And as I said earlier, I feel secure myself as a traveler to get on the flights. Now, the wearing of the mask for 9 hours, it's a challenging thing. Of course it is. But it is a requirement. And I have listened also a number of CEOs of United, of Lufthansa, giving presentations and bringing the people that work on the ground and the measures they take. So overall, I think the airlines are taking every measure possible to make the trip safe. Now, again, long flights and masks can be challenging. Also, I would say most of the carriers for the international flights, 40% of the seats are blocked. They are open so you can have space and you're not going to be, unless you are a family, in which case you can sit together. But overall, I think they have done a good job on that.
There's been a lot of questions, which half of them were how to get the minister back online again. So we'll dispense with those. But a lot of them also are of a personal nature, and I don't think it's appropriate to bring up questions of just completely a personal nature of what each person may have. However, there is one here that's rather interesting. And again, this will go to the minister. It says, what about if an American tourist visits first a non-Schengen coronavirus safe country and then visits Greece? Does it make a difference?
Well, we will have to see the exact wording. It's possible that it does not make a difference because we will check the passport, as it were. The first country of origin, the first country that's a Schengen country is responsible for doing those checks. So if, however, someone is within Schengen, then there is no way to check them, and they will be able to fly to Greece with no problem. This is, if you like, the reason why we have to try at least, and if possible, actually agree on a common set of rules, because it makes no sense if France blocks US citizens if Greece doesn't. Because if Greece accepts them, then you can just fly to France with no blocking. So this is the reason why, in effect, you just take the wider um, rules within Schengen, because it's a common area, passport area. So as soon as one country allows it, then effectively all countries allow it.
Right. Let me ask another minister, and I apologize, gentlemen, but a lot of these, as you can imagine, are towards the minister, or he's the only one who can answer them. But I think this one is an interesting one that, more people, especially Greek Americans, it would apply. It says, will it make a difference if a dual citizenship, U.S./Greek, travels with their Greek or U.S. passport, or is it strictly the country of origin that will be looked up by border agents?
No, the Greek passport is allowed as long as there is a flight. There is some kind of schedule that can bring you from the U.S. to Greece, and you have a Greek passport. Then you can fly back to Greece. The same applies to any EU passport, any of the passports that are within the EU plus area that currently is allowed to come to Greece.
Well, this is a little, it's a little controversial because, at the end of the day, you're dealing with, with it's the passport issue and the the nationalist-based issue as opposed to the country issue. So even though the United States may be blocked as a whole, if you have a Greek passport, you're able to come in, even though you live in the United States. You understand the contradiction here?
There is, but you cannot split the difference between that and the repatriation. Someone who just got stuck in the U.S. and is actually living in Greece. So, there is no.
I know, but I have to bring it up, though. Obviously,
there's no clear set of rules, unfortunately. I mean, this is hair splitting sometimes. It's very difficult.
Let me change it up just a little bit, if I may. And again, this will be mostly again for the minister. I apologize, but let's take a look at the impact on the people of Greece who work in this industry. And I know, Tim, in your hotel, obviously, you have people who depend on tips, who work, in the restaurant right behind you and so forth. And a lot of them, really depend on those tips, not just their wages. And you may have to remind me, Mr. Minister, in terms of what stimulus, if any, were given to Greek workers on the ground in Greece. But I also know this, and if you can please, if you have any information, Greece is due to receive 32 billion in economic assistance from the European Union because of the COVID-19. How will that trickle down in terms of an industry that takes up 30%, potentially of GDP, which is a major component of the Greek economy? What allocations, or is this something that, that still needs to be decided? But if you can speak at all to how this 32 billion will be able to trickle down to the rank and file grassroots who work in the hospitality industry.
Well, this is a difficult question to answer. Let me try at least to answer the first part. We had a number of measures trying to support both employees and the businesses of the industry, and that in two stages. The first stage was really the hibernation stage. As we locked down, as we put the measures to stop movement of people in order to keep the disease under control, we simultaneously had to institute freezing of the employments, payment of 800 euros per person per month effectively for those affected, and a number of measures for liquidity, for pushing back the payments of the taxes and social security contributions, etc., in order to support the businesses, in order to support the professionals, and in order to support the employees. Now, this was done in a swift and effective manner, if I may say so, even though some hiccups were present and we had to fix them on the fly, as it were. So that was, if you like, the first stage. Now we're in the second stage, where we are, well, being forced, if you like, not forcing the businesses, but everybody's being forced to open the economy because, of course, this situation cannot continue. So the economy is being gradually opening. And at the same time, there's a total blackout in terms of the demand and in terms of how much revenue can people like Tim and Anandiadis expect. So, so for those businesses, what we're doing is we're allowing them the maximum flexibility that we can allow, which is that they do not have to restart employment in all their employees. Have the ability to start with employees and add as demand increases, and at the same time they can partially employ their employees, and we chip in as a state in order to ensure that they can do that with a free conscience, that their employees lose the minimum of income. That allows enough flexibility for them to pay through these first couple of months that are very, very difficult to predict. But at least it makes the reopening decision easier for them to do. So this is the stage we're in.
Yeah.
Some people are asking for more. Some people are asking for, what about those that will not open? Well, I can say that we are not thinking about how to support those people. We're thinking about how to support those that will open, because everybody has a social role to play, if you like. The responsibility aspect in this, give that have long-term employees, they know them by name, they know their families, etc., etc. So everybody has to play a role here. This is a difficult time for everyone in Greece, and of course not just Greece, for everyone. Period. Now, as far as the recovery fund, the Renewal Europe Fund, the answer is very, very simple. Even the 32 billion is not decided yet. So I don't even know the envelope, let alone how to open that envelope and start, you know, taking the bills out of the envelope and handing them out. So this is still an ongoing discussion. We don't know the parameters. We don't know how much we will be getting and other countries will be getting. We don't know how much of this is grants and how much of this is loans. We don't even know the loans, what kind of interest we would expect. So this is an ongoing discussion for at least a month. And after that, we'll start discussing the how to do this. One thing is certain, we will use this again with the advice of the experts. Again, the economists, like the health situation, we relied on the health experts. Here we'll rely on the economy experts, so that each and every dime of this money goes to productive use, goes to investment use, and not to waste, and not to just you know, window dressing kind of projects, but real projects that create wealth, jobs for Greek people.
Fair enough.
Nick, can I say something on that? Because I think it's important. The question is very important. First of all, I have to say that the effort by the Greek government was very quick and fair. I know some people have questions, some people may not like it or dislike it or would like some more. The bottom line is that all of our employees have been able to be supported the last 3 months by getting a fairly close to the minimum wage that they would have gotten. That gave a relief to the business like us that we were closed for 3 months with no revenues. Just to give you an example, when we shut down our doors on March 22nd, we had 612 employees on payroll. So you can imagine the impact, almost €1 million worth of payroll a month. You have a couple of issues here. One is the seasonal hotels, which is the majority of the hotels in Greece, the smaller hotels. Those are taken care of, and the minister is right. They're encouraged to open rather than stay closed, and that's fair, I feel. The real problem that we're gonna face, and we are facing, is that this is not a short-term crisis. Having a wintertime period for Greece that has always been quiet, and the hotels on the islands are closed, we're looking at minimum of 10 to 12 months before we see any recovery or true recovery. So it's a difficult thing to project that far out. However, I feel confident that we will be able to support a lot of our employees, even if we end up going later on into a shift rotation program, because Greece allows that, and this is something that will give the employees at least a 50-60% of their salary, and hopefully the recovery will be sooner than the 10 months.
Fair enough. We'll leave it at that. So what we'll do now is, gentlemen, we're going to start in reverse order of where we began with some closing comments from each and one of you. So, Konstantinos, I'll begin with you for any closing comments you might have.
Yes, I will go back to my opening statement that I'm an optimist by nature. And while I listen very carefully and I agree with Tim on his assessment on the return of tourism, I think we are at the point in the middle of the pandemic that we do not see the light at the end of the tunnel, but there is a light. We have been through situations before, not as big as this one, but things came back, and it's going to be a bit of a new normal when they come back. However, I feel very strongly, especially because Greece is well positioned to receive tourism, that it will come sooner than later. Yes, the timeline that Tim has put out is a very reasonable timeline, but you know, being in my position, every day I receive calls. I talk about the Greek Americans. I also have universities, I have colleges, I talk to them. There is an interest, and once these fears and all these uncertainties are overcome, I believe that Greece will be rebounding in the spring of 2021. And that's my, just keeping right now optimistic and focusing on helping the clients, giving them information and telling them what is best, you know, to my knowledge.
Tim?
Well, I can help Kostas' case by saying that in 2021, including the anniversary, right, of
Yes.
our anyway, exactly, the Bicentennial, which is going to be a great, there's a lot of things planned, as I understand it. And we have a HEP actually coming back finally in 2021. I can tell you that my last time that I looked at our group pace, which is an indication long term of what happens the next couple of years, that in 2021 we have almost 3 times the reservations for groups that we had in 2020 at the same time last year. So that's a positive sign. A lot of it obviously is groups that they moved from 20 to 21. It will come back by April, May, I agree. However, the cash flow for the businesses, unfortunately, will be a little bit longer to come back. That's what I was referring to. But having said that, all I can say, and I said it before, whoever gets the opportunity is lucky enough to come back to Greece this year, they will be pleasantly surprised.
Tim, that means I better put in my reservations for 2021 from now then, right?
Your rate is going to go up.
I have an inside track though, right? Mr. Minister.
Well, thank you again for this to explain how Greece is opening its arms. We feel that we're going to be doing that in a prudent way. And as a result, rules the continuation of control of the situation, even on the borders. And as a result, I believe that perhaps the first month will be a month where mostly pioneers and risk takers, if you like, or those that feel that they've gone through a very, very stressful period and they need to take a break. They need to recharge the batteries and they need to do so in a safe country, will be the first to come. Of course, some restrictions will apply. The experience will be different, but the open arms will be there. The warm heart will be there. The smile behind the mask will be there. We're still the same kind of extrovert people that would like to host and like to welcome people in our country and to show them the Greek way of life, if you like. And the things now that allowed us to be so successful and to be in the global leadership. So we were in the way into this crisis. We believe we're going to be in the global leadership in the way out of this crisis. So we're here to say that those that want to wait are welcome to do so. They'll see the actual results. We're very, very confident that those results will convince even the most doubting Tom of us that Greece is a safe destination. Destination Greece, health first. This is the message that I want to pass on. And as our campaign says, Greek summer, especially in 2020, is something that you can keep into your heart wherever you are. Greek summer is not just the sea, the sand, the light, the peculiar light that Greece has that warms everybody's heart. Greek summer is wherever you feel safe, you feel with close friends, you feel happy and free. So whenever you miss that feeling, you're welcome to come back to Greece and recharge the feeling back. And I can assure you, it can carry over for 11 and a half months, and then you have the chance to come back again next year. So we welcome everyone in our country. There's not, just look at this picture with the Grand Bretagne empty. You will not see that picture again pretty soon. So the first ones get the hotel to themselves. That's not going to happen very often, I can tell you that.
That right there is Rick's Cafe from Casablanca. Everyone and anyone that's anyone is going to be, you'll meet them there. Allow me some closing comments. Ladies and gentlemen, when I try to describe the country of Greece to policymakers in Washington, a lot of times, those of you who are not aware necessarily of the country, I describe it as it is the size of Alabama, has the GDP of Tennessee, and has a little bit more than the population of New York City. Not New York State, New York City, which New York City has approximately 7 million and Greece has 11 million people. That's the country of Greece. But what better world brand name is there than the country of Greece itself? It's known throughout the four corners of the world and the world over in terms of what it has given to Western civilization and the principles for democracy and the rule of law and everything that we live by in Western culture. The country has been around for over 2,500 years that we know of. Maybe it's been longer. I don't necessarily trust all these scientists and how they come up with these things, but be it as it may, we'll take that as a barometer. It has gone through some exceptionally difficult historical problems within its livelihood, and it has always been able to overcome, to be resilient, and the people of Greece have always stood tall and proud. And once again, they've been dealt a blow, and I get emotional. They've been dealt another blow, coming off of something that was for almost 10 years, an economic problem. They were coming out of it, and lo and behold, now they're in the middle of this pandemic, which threatens their economic livelihood, but they will overcome this too, because as I always like to say, failure isn't an option. And this government has done an exceptional job in terms of trying to mitigate the problems of this coronavirus and has done yeoman's work, and we congratulate them. And for us who want to go to Greece and who yearn to want to go to Greece, it is really only a minor inconvenience if we're not able to go there in the foreseeable near future, because as long as we're healthy, we know we will be able to go there once again at some point in the very near, not too distant future. But it is important for the people of Greece to continue to fight through this, and for their economic livelihood, and to be strong. And let's remember, ladies and gentlemen, because the AHI here is to advocate for Greece's and the role that Greece plays in the Eastern Mediterranean for overall, not just obviously the tourist destination that it is, and a great destination at that, but that it also provides for the geostrategic importance of Western civilization, NATO, and of course for us, the United States of America. And even though we're talking about tourism today, the tensions are all-time high in the Eastern Mediterranean regarding the provocative actions, taken on by Turkey, that also threatens potentially visitations to Greece. And we didn't talk about that today, but if there was no COVID-19, that would also have an impact regarding the actions of Turkey. But be it as it may, we'll leave it at that. Hopefully, those of us who will go to Greece this year will be able to get there, be safe, be healthy, and to provide as much as we can to the local economy and at the same time have a good time. I'd like to thank once again, first and foremost, the minister for taking time from his valuable time from his schedule to be with us, to Tim Anandiadis, an old friend, and Costa, and of course the minister for being with us and to sharing their insights into their expertise in terms of Greek tourism and beyond. And I'd like to remind everyone, let me first thank my staff for always making this happen. I can't do this without them. That's Yola Pakchanian, my research specialist when it comes to this stuff, and that is Elias Yerasulis, and my producer, Emily Pantis, for all the great work that they continue to do. Let me also remind our audience that we will come back again in 2 weeks on July 8th. We're going to dedicate our Zoom presentations to Cyprus because in July of '74, Turkey illegally invaded Cyprus. And that issue, of course, as we all know, is still unresolved. But we're going to deal with an issue that not too many people are aware of on July 8th, and that is of the missing. There are still over 1,000 people that are approximately missing from the invasion in '74. And we're going to have Commissioner Fotis Fotiou, who is the Presidential Commissioner for Humanitarian Affairs, and another gentleman by the name of Xenophon Kallis, who does the actual excavations and goes into these grave sites and other areas and try to excavate and try to find closure for the relatives of those missing in '74. And we will have that on July 8th. And I also need to remind our audience that the American Hellenic Institute is a nonprofit organization, and it depends on the generosity and goodwill of friends, members, and those who will donate. So please don't be shy about also helping us out by going to our website, ahiworld.org, and also helping us out by donating to our efforts here so we can continue to bring you programs like this and the other work that we do to promote U.S.-Greece, U.S.-Cyprus relations. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, it is a pleasure to have all of you with us. I'd like to thank our panelists once again. Until next time, wish you all a good afternoon, a good day. Be healthy and be safe. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.